one thing to go back. Okay. So on the agenda tonight is we're going to do an overview of the program, and then we're going to go through some of the next steps that your club has to get a student and do some recruiting and get to that point where you've selected a student. And then we're also going to take a little wander into YAY, which is our database programming tool that we keep all the information about our students and our volunteers in. And then any other questions and things that you guys might have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And that looks.
Make you a co-host. Can you do that right now?
Okay.
You're a co-host.
Thank you. And you guys can see my screen okay? Okay, awesome. Okay. And I have, for those of you, excuse me, everybody, for those of you that are here, this document. Thank you. One, two, okay, so this first slide really just talks about kind of what the jobs of the district are and the jobs of the club. So for you all to know that really youth exchange starts with the club. So it is a kind of bottom up program in that until a club sponsors a student, there isn't any other way for a student to go in or out on youth exchange. So it has to start with a sponsoring club, which is you guys. So the clubs are really where the students come, you interact with a student in your club, you find the host families, which we'll talk about, you vet your volunteers and you vet your host families as well. What the district does in terms of roles and responsibility is we make the connections with other districts around the world. So, you know, if your student wants to go to France, then we make a connection with a district in France, and we actually sign a contract. There's a contract that we sign with all of our exchange partners. We make sure that our program is running in accordance with the US government, the Canadian government, and Rotary International. So there's 3 sets of rules that we have to work through in our district. So luckily for you guys, it's just 2. It's just the US government and Rotary International. And most of the complicated things come from our US Department of State. So that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. And then the other things that the district does is we facilitate trainings. We also make sure that we have a framework for you guys to do your work in as club volunteers. We do not, the district itself does not get any funding from our District 50/50. All of our funding comes from students and clubs. So here's some of the terminology that you'll hear during this exchange program. So long-term exchange, that's essentially the year-long program that your club is used to sponsoring. Short-term exchange is relatively new if you take out the COVID years, an exchange program that we have started, and essentially that is a family-to-family exchange. So it's a great option for those students who maybe they're too involved in their high school that they can't They can't see going away for a full academic year, but they might be able to go away for over the summer. So it is, if I can describe it, it's that we at the district, we will put your student and another student, we'll use France, for example, together. We'll do the match, and they meet and talk, and then their families actually decide from there when the students will travel, who will travel to France first, who will travel to the US first, vice versa. And once they start their exchange, then like the student from Arlington might travel to France and live with that student and his French family for 6 to 8 weeks. And then both of them will travel back to Arlington and live with the Arlington family here for 6 to 8 weeks. And sometimes those are just 4 weeks. Sometimes they're a little longer than 8. There's not a ton of parameters on it, but each student will be traveling on a tourist visa. So the limitation is really about how long someone can stay on a tourist visa. And there's no academic component to this, so the students aren't required or we have had students that shadow at schools before, but it's not an official Rotary academic program. It really is a tourist exchange, but it's a little bit more. And for those students, like if they're in drama or music or athletics that they just can't see getting away for a whole year, it's a great option for them. Really easy for the clubs to sponsor students because there's not a lot for you to do. You need to vet the two families because they're or the one family because they'll be hosting, and choose a student, and then you're really just kind of helping the families if they have questions about making the match or getting their travel. But there's not a lot for the club to do after that. You would just want to bring that student into your club. Maybe there's an event, that sort of thing. So any questions about short-term exchange? I have more information on the costs of that in here, but it's a great program. If you say you have 3 or 4 applicants for your long-term exchange, and one of them is a great applicant, but not quite as good, that might be somebody you might offer a short-term exchange for. We expect, even in this year, where things are a little quieter, we'll probably have about 12 short-term exchange students going in and out in the district. So outbound student, that's your local student that goes out. And I want to comment on this a little bit. Our outbound students kind of tend to get lost and overshadowed by the inbound student who is from a foreign country, and they're very exciting and interesting, but it really is our outbound students that we send out into the world that come back into our community, and those are our future Rotarians. So those are really the students that when they come back in and during their exchange, really good to have somebody that is actively involved with that student, because they will want to come back and do things for your club and be a volunteer. They know what Rotary is. So those are the students that we really don't want to lose track of. And those students are actually called a ROTEX or a rebound student. So that is a student who's been out on exchange and successfully returned. So your inbound student is the student that comes from out in the world to your club. We talked about ROTEX and rebound. Youth exchange officer, or YEO, you'll hear me say YEO a lot. That is essentially the person in your club that will do the kind of the paperwork and the administration of the program. That person will complete the paperwork for the visas, assist with vetting the host families and other volunteers. The club counselor, which I think, Jessica, were you the club counselor? That's actually really the person in your club that probably has the most contact with the student because you develop a relationship. The club counselor is really there as an ear for the student. They're there as their friend, their advocate. They're not really involved with doing the paperwork of the program other than the monthly reports. So there's a monthly report that Department of State and Rotary International requires us to do on every student. And so that's a simple report that you go in and just update how that student is doing and that sort of thing. Youth Protection Officer, some clubs have a Youth Protection Officer and a YEO. You don't have to that. You don't have to have those two as two separate. They're often the same person. The Youth Exchange Admin Hub or YAY, that is the database, and we'll look into that tonight. That's a database where we keep track of all the volunteers, all the students, and everyone that's involved in our youth exchange in our district. That's where we keep track of everybody. All their information is in there, all their applications, everything is in that database. So expenses for long-term exchange, so that for the club fee is $900. The club fee used to be $2,100, but we decided that we wanted to remove some of the cost burdens to the clubs, and we flip-flopped that fee structure a bit. So the students are paying more. We actually found that most of our students can afford more, and we are still the most affordable academic exchange programs. And we're hoping that with a lower club fee that will get some more clubs involved in the program. And that's a one time a year. There's a stipend of $100, and that's a contractual thing that we do with our partners around the world. So again, this is for long-term exchange, and it's $100 per month is what our contract is. And then some clubs decide to pay for phones and some other things along with that. Although phones anymore really aren't necessary, all the students use WhatsApp, so it's not really something you guys need to pay for anymore. They don't want to use another device. We kind of went through a transition where the students had two phones, and that didn't go over very well. They want to use their iPhone or whatever. Yale is optional for the clubs. It is something that most of the clubs send their exchange students to. Such a great program, and the students really get a lot from that. So that's your inbound and your outbound students. Again, remember your outbound students, your local students will come back into your area. So we need to keep track of them. District conference is optional for the clubs to send. We'll give you some estimates when we understand what that will be to send those students to district conference. We pulled that out of our budget because we don't get any funding from the district to send our students, and it was very, very expensive to send students to the district conference. And our committee felt like we just weren't getting the kind of value associated with spending that kind of money. So let's see, I'm gonna go to the next. Any questions so far from out in the virtual audience as well? Okay. So long-term exchange, this is a slide to kind of pay attention to, because as you are recruiting students and interviewing, these will be a lot of the questions that they'll have, which is how much does this exchange cost? So airfare, insurance, visa. So the airfare and the visa will be a combined cost this year, because all of our students will be using a company called It's Your World Travel. It's a travel agency. It's actually a Rotary travel agency. They schedule all youth exchange travel throughout North America, or throughout the US and Canada. And what we found is it's been optional until 2020. And what we found is that our students who we had to pull back from exchange because of the pandemic, those students that were using It's Your World Travel, it was not an issue to get them home. It's Your World Travel took care of everything. Those students who were traveling on their own tickets, it was a lot of phone calls with parents and trying to figure things out. And so we made that decision that all students will use It's Your World Travel. They're the experts. They deal with visas every year, so they understand when countries change their visa requirements, these people are on top of it. I'm not a visa expert. I can't really become one in my position. So we made this decision. It will cost your students a little bit more, not more than this, that those estimates are in there, but we feel like it's well worth it for our volunteers to have that as a backbone for their travel. And if anything happens during their travel, airfares get changed, flights get missed, It's Your World Travel will be right on it for them. And they've demonstrated that over and over again to us. The outbound district fee is $1,200. So that's what the student pays to the district. And then kind of other incidentals, which, kind of come and go. The other big item is pretty much everywhere your outbound student will go, they will have some sort of big trip. So whether that's a European trip or, in Peru, they do an amazing trip to Machu Picchu and some other local things. So, and those typically run between $1,500 and $2,500 per student. And that's that's above and beyond. It is optional, but I will tell you, students should go on these trips. They're amazing. And they tend to be one of the highlights of their exchange. So, so make sure when you're talking to parents that you emphasize that that's a really key thing for students to do. Okay, short-term exchange. The club fee is $125 per student. Essentially, that includes orientation, sweatshirt, swag, and then the student pays kind of similar to the long-term, they're going to have the similar airfare. Then the insurance is prorated for the amount of time that they're gone. And then the student has a district fee as well.
You guys are downstairs. Oh,
Okay.
We're going to skip over this because you kind of already are there. So that's kind of the umbrella overview of the program. Anybody have any questions before we kind of tackle our next thing? Let's see, where's that little key fob that I had? Is that still in yesterday?
I have a copy.
Oh, okay, I'll get So on the screen now is the our specific youth exchange. Sorry, I'm trying to plug in my little key fob here. Our website for our district program. And there is just a ton of information on this website. So please, if you have a question, go to that website. It really is, it's just invaluable, the amount of stuff that is in there. Let's see, I need to do a new share. And excuse me, just one sec. Let's see if that gets me where I want. Yep. Okay. So, right, here is our district website, and it is organized in general information, information for students, information for host families, information for Rotarians. So right now, you know, since you have got volunteers that need to be approved, you're gonna go to becoming a volunteer. It talks about some of the duties that you'll have, and then you're gonna come here and click Start Volunteer Application. This will take you to essentially an online application tool that we use. And this application tool will put all of your information directly into our YAY program. So as soon as you start doing this, then we'll see that you are a volunteer, and then we can start helping you through the process. You will automatically get the trainings that need to be assigned to you. But this is the only way that we know you're a volunteer. So make sure that if you have a volunteer that needs to get trained, that you send them to the district website. I think I sent the link in the email to all of you. That's another way. It's this link up here in the browser. So this is the way to get all of your volunteers to into our program. So then the other thing is that kind of just jumping forward to students. This is also where you want your students to come to apply. And the reason you want them to start here is because we now have a pre-application segment. So they come in, they put in all their information, they put in the club that is sponsoring them, and then we link that information to you, and then you'll see all of that online. You don't have to enter it in manually. The students will do it all. So it's important to get them to do it right out of the gate. So that will eliminate a lot of work for you guys to coming through. And the start of an application, I'll kind of show you that in a second here. But the other thing on the website to see is that for Rotary clubs, the really valuable piece on the website is on the left-hand side of the page. There's links to all kinds of things, and probably the one that's used the most is this link to the YAY Hub and the YAY portal. That is the database that we use. And so if you are on a new computer or you didn't bookmark it on your computer, you can always come here to the website and click on the YAY Hub, YAY portal, and it'll get you where you want to go. So let me talk a little bit about what those two things are. Let's see. So the YAY portal is the simplified version of the database. And this is really specifically designed to use on your mobile device. And it is ideal for counselors doing counselor reports, or you just want to look up, you know, the host family's phone number or whatever. You go to the App Store, and you guys online probably can't see this as well, but let's see if I can get back to where I want to be. You go to the App Store and you'll put in your regular credentials, and this is what mine looks like. It says, I don't know if you guys can see that on there. Can't see. Anyway, it basically says inbound students, outbound students, host families, volunteers, and outbound applicants. So you see everything that you need for all of your students and volunteers right here on the portal. The other thing that this does really well is, so if you need to do your monthly report, you're a counselor, you need to do your monthly report, you would come in here and tap inbound students, and it'll say monthly report. I can do it here on the screen and it'll show you. So it'll say select a current inbound student or a prior inbound student. So we're going to go to, let's see, what was your last student? Alessia was her last name, or is that her first name? From Italy. I'll see if I can find her really quick here. I can't remember what her last name is. Let's see. There she is, Rama. Okay, so now we see, and this is essentially duplicated on your mobile device. We see all of her basic information in a nice, concise format. And then you can assign a different host family to Alessia. You can submit your monthly report, which I'll do here. Obviously, this is in the past, but this is what a counselor's monthly report looks like. So you do the drop downs, and then there's a space for you to describe how she's doing. And then it's auto-filled my information down here, Felicity, in there, and then you select submit report. Okay. And then you can also go back.
How far back does this go as far as previous exchange students? When did this start?
We started using Yay about 6 years ago. So
I don't remember it when we had Jose.
yeah, it was just, we've really in the year before COVID, so 2019, everybody was using this full on. And this year with a little extra time that we've added some more layers in to make it, even more streamlined. So it's a great program. And for those of you who might hear something about a youth management software, there is a program that is based upon the same platform that is for all youth volunteers within our district. I think it's called YMS, Youth Management System. And so the nice thing is that if you're a vetted volunteer within our RI program, that information will transfer over to the YVM, Youth Volunteer Management. That's what it is. The YVM platform as well. So you're not having to take the same tests in both places. It'll be connected. And you'll hear more about that from the district. That's not part of Youth Exchange. It's for every other program like Yale and Interacts and all the other youth programs that Rotary does. Okay. Let me go back to Yay. So this is actually, I need to refresh this. Any questions from anybody here or audience? Okay. So I'm logging into, this is the Yay Hub. So this is the kind of big kahuna. And because of my position, I see everybody within the district, on this platform. You will only see the students and volunteers from your club when you sign in. But one of the things that we've added this year is this thing called preliminary applications. And so these are all the students who've gone in through our District 5050 website and submitted their application that way. And so this is how they start. And I can click down here and I can even see applications that have been started, but they're not to the stage where they're really a preliminary application yet. They went in, they might have put their email address in there, but then they didn't do anything else. Or that's where you can look, because you'll be able to see for your club, if a student says, well, I put my application in, remember to click down on show all applications, and it'll show ones that students have just started. And this is the same for volunteers. So if you have a volunteer that says, hey, I started this, but I'm, I don't, I don't think I did it right, you can go in and look and see where they're at in the process. So we're going to go back to submitted applications, and I like to come up here and filter via the sponsor club, because then it kind of stacks everything in there nicely. And for example, we have, she's kind of close to you, she's at Lakewood High, but we have this student, and if I go to documents and I go to her outbound application, so this is she's gone in kind of on her own and done this, because Marysville isn't, the Marysville Club is not sponsoring a student. And she's filled out this application, and she has done a very nice letter here as well. So she is saying all of the things that why she wants to be a Rotary exchange student. And so because you guys aren't vetted volunteers, you can't really see all the information, but I did, Jessica, I copied her letter and I blacked out her name. I think it's on my book there, just so you guys could read that, in case that was a student that you might consider interviewing, even though she's not from Arlington. I'm not sure how close she lives to you. Okay.
Depending on what side of the road.
Right.
The high school, at least, is in Arlington.
Yeah.
It's got an
Okay.
Arlington address.
So that's kind of the student. Now, as you can see here, these students have lots more green to fill in. So each one of these items is another document that they need to do. And you can go up here to the key in the top right-hand corner, and that'll tell you what all of those things mean. So if you look at your student and they're not green all the way across, you can go in and take a look at what they haven't completed yet and say, hey, you got to get this going. Okay.
We talked about vetting. How often do we have to get vetted? Because I've been vetted, and so is.
Yeah, so good question. So there's several steps to the vetting process. The application is good for 3 years, your volunteer application, and that includes the references. The youth protection training is good for, I think, 5 years. That's the basic training that all volunteers in the district who work with youth have to take. And these all end and start at different times, and it's frustrating for everyone. The Department of State says that you have to do the DOS training, Department of State training, every year, and you have to have a background check every year. So those are the ones that feel like they come all the time, because they do. And so you can thank our government for that. So, and that training is good training. It talks about the J1 visa that our students travel here on, and what are all of the rules and regulations around their travel and stay within the United States. So it is important to know these things. And typically that's a little more challenging one. I don't know that I've ever got 100% on the DOS training. So nice. Good job.
Do it again. But I gotta
That's great.
a couple questions where you're like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Wrong and then
Yeah, and you go back and go, really? And then I'll go and try and look in the regs and find where they talk about it, and the regs aren't always real clear. So, but those are the 2 things that have to be done for our US volunteers every year. If you are in Canada, you don't have that burden. So just saying. Okay, so if we go to volunteers on this front page, again, you will see the volunteers that are available to your club. I'm seeing all volunteers within the district. And again, I come up here and I click the club so it organizes it better for me. Because I know who I'm, who in what club I'm trying to, I can't always remember everybody's name, but I know they're in, this club or that club. So this shows you that we've got some Bellingham, my compadres that need some stuff done. And then as you go down, we've got some Monroe's coming up fast. That's great. They weren't all that green the other day. And then where's Arlington? Arlington's up at top. And I think it's just Jessica. So all you other volunteers, go to that link that I showed you and start your application, and then you'll show up here. And then the other piece of information that I will need for your club is who's going to be the counselor and who's going to be the YEO. Okay, so the YEO will be able to go in and review and approve documents for these volunteers. Okay. So you'll be able, like when you have a volunteer submit their reference checks, and you'll be able to go in and approve those reference checks. Okay. And then, so if I go to, let me go to you so we can, and you go to, so this is your basic information here for Jessica. And then we come over to the approval process. This is the tab you'll work in mostly. And as you can see here, Dina has submitted a reference. So I'm going to go ahead and evaluate that. And hopefully she said you were a good volunteer. And essentially, your job is to read through it and, feel good about yourself, because people usually always say really nice things like Jessica loves people without judgment. That's very sweet. And can you guys see that on my screen? Okay. And then you go back and it'll say it's pending, and you just go, okay, I approve that. Okay, we're done. And then we need to recalculate her volunteer status. Now, I know that Jessica still needs an updated background check, so she's still not going to be you good. So great. So Garth is right on it. So in the next couple of days, you'll turn to vetted. But if you come back into the main screen and you're looking and you think everything is there, why is this still red? Go ahead and click that recalculate the status, and sometimes that'll kick it into gear. The other thing to take a look at is, you see where Jessica's highlighted in blue, and if we follow that over, it shows us right here in red, that's the background check. That's what's needed left for her to become a vetted volunteer. So that's the other place to kind of take a look at where specifically a volunteer is not getting to the green stage.
You say this includes everybody that worked with youth.
Within Youth Exchange.
Oh, okay.
Not within the district. That's it. It's a separate platform that they have.
I was wondering about Chad, because he's been our Interact advisor.
So he wouldn't be in here, but he'll be in the YBM.
Okay.
Which is just rolling out.
Host families, do we have them go in here and do this also?
Mm-hmm. So it'll be a very similar thing with the host families. Let's go in and take a look at host families. I haven't been in here yet this year because we don't really have, so we've got, a lot of expired. See if we got anybody green. Yeah, nobody's green. But if we take, David, there you go. I'm expired too. But this is, you know, a similar platform. So again, go over to this approval process. And this will tell you all of the things that need to be done to get that host family approved. Probably the biggest thing that gets missed with the host families is they have someone living with them that is over 18 that needs to go through the vetting process as well. So, and that includes somebody that is, you know, a college student, but comes home for Christmas and holidays and summer. The idea is that if it's someone has continual consistent contact with the student, they need to be vetted. And let me tell you, the college students are the easiest ones to do. They, you know, they're used to being online. They go online, they take these tests, and you know, they're done. So they're usually never an issue. It's all of us that have jobs and other obligations that you know, we run into issues with not getting them to take the test. So back to your question, Dave, about what it takes to become a vetted volunteer. I just want to make sure I answered that correctly. So you'll start your application. There's 3 references. You're going to, the first online test you'll take is the youth protection awareness. That takes about a half an hour. The next one is the Department of State DOS training, and that one takes about 45 minutes. And then a background check. This training will count as your volunteer training, which is also another training that you're required to do. And there'll be another training coming up when it's appropriate, when you've got your inbound student here. We have a culture shock and reverse culture shock training that is fabulous, and it's very appropriate for that time. And I don't want to have you guys take it yet because it needs to be taken when you've got your student, and you'll understand where they are in their process of reverse culture shock and reverse culture shock. Hey, Greg, I saw you come on the screen. Did you want to add something? Oh, he needs to be admitted. Okay, maybe that was it. He's on in a couple places. All right. So let me just take stock of where we're at. Hang on one second. Let me go to my. All right, so can you see these documents that I have on the screen now? Can you guys see this part of the screen? It's you're still seeing the website? Okay. Let's see. Okay, we're rocking out over here. If you guys can hear that music online. So let me talk about the next piece, which is you're going to need to go recruit your students. And you guys have done this before, but okay, great. Oh, good. So I'm pulling up, essentially this is a scholarship flyer. Jessica has this document, and I'll get it.
We're not staying. We're still seeing here.
Oh, you are. Interesting. Okay, let me go. I see what I'm doing.
Now I see Greg's face right there.
Do we have to see that? Let's cover that up quick. Okay. Oh, I got him to smile. That's not that hard, actually. Okay, so this is the scholarship flyer. So this is something that you can give to put the first page up. I'm just see if I can get this a little, there we go. You can put the first page up, you know, around schools, other, you know, churches, other places. You do need to put in your local Rotary Club contact. So whoever it is that that these students are going to contact right here to find out information. Also, can't quite see down here if this has the proper. So it's got the website link on here. And if you're really fancy, you could do one of those. I thought about this, one of the little Q. Yeah, that way a student could just hold up their phone and go right to the district, right to our website where they would do the application. So I think I'll add that to this document, but if you guys want to do that, or even add it to your local club site, and somebody can push a link from there to where they fill out their volunteer. But the other thing is that on this document, there are there's other information about the program for the students. So this is a great document to bring to a classroom for presenting, because it really outlines the basics of the program on here. Mm-hmm.
I think I emailed too, but it says like the date that we need to have things done.
So that's the date. So that's the date that you guys set for your club. So, and we talked about the fact that we're, you know, all kind of behind the 8 ball. Really, we need to have your students selected mid-December, end of December at the very latest, because typically we're going to do interviews on a normal year the first week of December. And we've kind of, you know, given people a lot of leeway because it's trying to get the program restarted. It's, you know, it's just a lot. So, so we're pushing that out, but we've already been approached by other country districts saying, do you have a student, you know, they want to partner. And so the sooner that we have those applications in and they've gone through the district interview and been approved, then we can match them to their country of choice. And so the later we wait, then those countries might not have slots for our students. So that's the biggest reason why we want to get this done, so we can get those spots secured.
So then we get the application from schools. Do you guys do those interviews, or do we select them? That's what I'm
Right.
I
Yep.
honestly never did the interview.
Okay, no, that's fine. So so essentially, the school, you know, if you have this document up at the schools, you know, a student may call you or email you, and then you would email them back the link to the YAY application, and that's where they need to start. Always have them start online, because then they're putting in all their information right from the get-go. And if they can't do that, then they can't go on exchange. So, and quite honestly, students are so comfortable with that kind of process that it's much easier for them than trying to do it any other way. So then you're gonna do your interview. So let's say you have 3 or 4 students that you want to interview, then you'll pick a time that you guys will do your club interviews. And I've got some information here. It was on the fob for the interview questions and stuff. So you can kind of go through that and ask those questions. There's questions for the parents as well. Often when parents come to these interviews, they don't have any idea why they're there. Literally. Oh, my kid told me to show up here, and they're like, gone a year. I mean, we've seen every reaction. It's just great. I love it. But just be prepared for that. And then some parents are, you know, they want to make such a good impression, and they want their kid to make a good impression, So it is very interesting, the spread of approaches to this. But, when you're looking for a good Rotary Exchange student, you're not necessarily looking for the smartest kid. Academics are important, that they're consistent and that they're actively pursuing their academics, but they don't need to be an A student. In fact, sometimes we want those B students. They make better exchange students. So you're really looking for somebody who can be comfortable outside of their box, willing to try new things, and is ready for an adventure, but also is comfortable in lots of different settings. So some of those questions kind of guide you through asking them how they deal with, being in, what happens if you're living with a host family that you don't necessarily agree with some of the things that they might feel, or their values, or their religion, or those types of things. So really flexible students, open for adventure. Those are the kind of students that you're looking for youth exchange. And so far, you guys in the past, you've picked great. So,
Like, how many people are you on that selection?
it's really up to you.
I think we had 3 last time. Yeah.
Yeah, probably more than 2 is good, but whatever, whoever wants to come, even if they're just going to sit and just observe. And typically the interviews take anywhere from a half an hour to 40 minutes each. So it is a good chunk of time. And then you need to take a little break in between, talk about the student. And then, so if you schedule them an hour in 1 hour increments, that tends to work pretty well. Or 40 minutes. The district interviews are really kind of another level of education. We have in the past, just because something has come out about a student that we've said, maybe this isn't a good selection, but typically we don't do that. Really what we're doing is we're validating your selection. We're educating a little bit more. It's also part of the process because it makes it really serious. District interviews, it sounds really important. And so it's another step for these students and their parents to realize kind of what they're approaching. Okay, let's grab another thing, and then I think we'll be wrapping up here soon, but I'm available for more time. But
Will you be doing those online, or?
no, we'll do our interviews in person. If we couldn't, we would do them online, but if at all possible, I would like to do the district interviews in person. And you guys, if at all possible, you should do yours in person. This student is going away for a year, and they really need to be aware of it. And so getting that body language within the room, I think, is really important, and the parents too. So if it's not possible, then we've all Zoomed. I mean, we all understand how to Zoom now, but if you can do them in person, that would really be ideal. Let's see, excuse me, just one sec while I find the other document that I wanted to show you.
But the interview would likely be in the US. I'm just thinking of the crossing the border issue.
Yeah, no. We do Canadian interviews and US interviews separately. If students couldn't make, traditionally, if students couldn't make one of those dates, then they could cross the border and be scheduled, in the other country. That's a little more complicated right now. So we're probably just going to keep our US students and our Canadian students separate. So this is just a template for you guys to use for questions. You may have other questions as well, but it kind of brings you through some of the questions to ask your students. And this is a document that Jessica has and Carrie has, and Dave almost has. So you can, if you got something you can share with them. So you all can have these documents. That would be great. So now you've gotten yourself a student you're interviewing. I want to talk about host families. So host families as being kind of a seasoned club with youth exchange, even though you've had some rotation of people, host families tend to be the most difficult piece of the program, right? How do you finding host families? So a couple of things. You don't have to be a Rotarian to be a host family. You don't have to have children at home to be a host family. In fact, often retired couples make the best host families. We accept all types of families in Rotary Youth Exchange. So 2 men, 2 women, whatever that combination is. We have placed students with single people as well. There's some extra screening that has to happen to be able to do that. But we accept all types of families. And one of the requirements of your outgoing student, so your local Arlington student, is to bring you 3 host families. So these are not vetted host families. These are, you as a club, you still have to do the vetting process with your host family, but your student is required to bring you 3 viable host families. So these are people that they've talked to and said, hey, I'm going out on exchange. Would you be a host family? And I've got a host family brochure here as well. I don't know if it's on the thing, but that's a great document to share with your host families, because for those of you who don't know, host families are just for 3 months. So Rotary International likes 3 host families per student per academic year. You can do less, and we've had that happen because of circumstances, but ideally it's 3 host families. So one of those families could be the student that's going out. Certainly their own family is an option, but again, all of these families have to be vetted. So if you have 2 students that are equal, and one of them has brought you no host families and the other has 3, my inclination would be I'm gonna choose the student that's bringing me 3 host families, because that solves my problems for the entire year. So really, that's a requirement that they have these, but you can look at these host families and know if they've put any effort into them, or if they're just, they've just put some names down and they really haven't talked to these people at all. So just make sure that they're a viable option for you.
Is that relatively new? I've never seen any of our outbound students recommend any.
The last email they talked about it, that was right when all of you were transitioning up and out.
Yeah, so it has been a sheet that the students fill out for several years, but it hasn't really been enforced as a requirement, and we just came to the realization that the students that are going out, they know the people in their community that can host, and so they should be finding these host families for you guys. And our program is the least expensive program there is. If they use any of the other academic exchange programs out there, it's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to go out on a year exchange, and we're at like 7 or 8 at the most. So they can put a little effort in to do this.
Oh, Felicity.
Mm-hmm.
Felicity.
Mm-hmm. Now, please understand that in the United States, we cannot require a outbound host family to host, meaning an outbound student's family to host. We cannot require that. So that's a Department of State rule. But they can if they want. And Yes, you absolutely can suggest it. And you know, the other thing too is sometimes people are hesitant because they just don't understand. And so having another host family talk to the family about hosting and how rewarding it is, you know, kind of may turn the corner for that. And also, you know, pointing out that their student is going to be out of their house and being hosted by somebody. So, you know, now the other issue that you're going to run into is, say you have a student who is underserved, but they're really going to be a great exchange student, but maybe they don't have a family situation where they can host a student, or maybe they don't even have the resources to find host families. Then that's going to be a club decision that you're taking this on. And, you know, honestly, you know, more power to you if you can sponsor an underserved student, but it does require some more effort for that student, including some fundraising and some other things. So just kind of keep that in mind. Our Bellingham Club did that 3 years ago, and it was an amazing experience. So, but we took on a lot more than normal. And I wouldn't necessarily suggest, like, maybe unless you have an amazing student, but maybe next year when this committee is a little more solid and, you know, you've kind of got a year under your belt, so you know what to expect if you're going to take on extra work like that, because it is extra work. But it's worth it because, you know, sending a student that's underserved out on an exchange, that's a game changer for that student. You know, that's just huge, where it's it changes the life of every student that goes out, but for these students that just don't have that opportunity, it's an amazing thing to be able to do. So, my 2 cents. Getting emotional. Okay. So we've talked about host families. We will have some continued training on vetting host families, and as you guys are going through this process, we'll have the online trainings to kind of take you through as we step along. So we don't have to cover everything today, but I wanted to get you guys to the point where you could feel like you could recruit and interview and get your volunteers vetted. Those are the 3 key things, because until a volunteer is vetted, they do not have access to the YAY platform. So that's really
Do the
important.
interviewees or the interviewers all have to be volunteers that are vetted?
Well, so our rule is if you don't have, if it's casual contact, then you don't have to be a fully vetted volunteer. And so I'll explain that in a little bit. So if all that volunteer is doing for that moment is to go interview and then pull back, that's okay. For example, like if you might want to have your club president be part of the interview process, okay? But that volunteer will have to be fully vetted at some point, because the whole idea is that you guys will have more than just casual contact with students. And maybe that doesn't apply to everybody on your committee, but you know, when we're talking about youth protection, and it may be speaking to the choir here for somebody, I don't know what everybody's background is, but you know, it's that constant contact that we really need to watch out for. But on that same token, you know, if you have a member of your club that, you know, maybe they have a young family and they want to go skiing for the weekend and they want to take the exchange student with them, that's perfectly fine. They do not have to be vetted for, I think it's under 48-hour event. Yeah, so we've got some specific stuff on there, and it's been a while since I've looked at that documentation, but there's room in there for your Rotarians to be active with our students without having to go through this entire vetting process. But again, we're back to, we don't want them to have repeated contact, because that's when grooming starts. So, you know, if it's a one-time thing, there's other people involved, there's, you know, they're with other people all the time, then the risk is very low, and we really want our students to be actively with other Rotarians. Okay, any questions on that at this point? All right. Hey, Greg, have I missed anything critical?
No, Felicity, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Felicity.
Can I unmute him? I can't hear you, Greg.
Oh,
Your mic's not working, Greg, or something's wrong.
Let's see, I think I can unmute him. Oh, yeah, he's unmuted. Oh, well, we were looking for some, amazing insight, Greg. I think he's doing something in the chat. Okay, let me look at my list here real quick, and then I think we're just about ready to call it for the night. Bless your heart. Thank you. There's a lot of details to the program, as you can imagine, and so it's helpful to have somebody else on the line to say, hey, Felicity, you totally forgot about this. All right, what am I going after here? This little Zoom bar is in my way. All right. Okay. So I think those other documents are just repeats of what we had. When you become a fully vetted volunteer, you will get a automatic email message with regarding the YAY portal, and there's a PDF which I made a copy of for you guys that'll walk you through how to do that. But we will have some other trainings on the YEO portal as we go along, because they're good timing. My husband is coming to pick me up. Let's see. So open to questions. Can you hear the music? They're like, they're having a good time down there. Sound pretty good. It's live. Somebody's doing it.
There's a band practicing upstairs, I think. Is that true, Jessica?
Let's see.
No, you just have a Monroe and you just if you switch to the recipes,
Okay, well, I'm seeing no questions. I think you guys are ready. I just encourage all of you volunteers to go on to the website and get yourself started to be a vetted volunteer. That'll be the hardest thing, and you'll get it done. And then I'll be able to see you and help you. So, okay.
cool.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You made it. Okay, I'm shutting.